Edward Bilder. You guys are joining me for another live session. This will be my fourth live session here on YouTube. Counting them down as I am learning more about what's going on with YouTube and live. Today we are going to cover some EIDL topics. If we have some time, we'll get into some national news. And we will go over some of the review of the questions that were asked yesterday in the chat session. I had a chance to review a lot of those questions and provide you guys with some answers today. So hoping to hear from all of you today. And as always, we will go through some passive investing opportunities through things like AirBNB, short-term rentals, and talk about other funding opportunities that are outside of EIDL. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Leave a shout out. Let me know where you guys are from. Let me know if you guys are tuning in for EIDL, if you guys are tuning in for AirBNB, so we could tailor this for everybody joining the chat. Just opening up some notes. How you doing? How you doing? And as of right now, I do not have any scheduled live streaming that's occurring. Everything's kind of random. I'm testing out times, testing out whether the mornings are the best. I came on Monday at noon, and many of the West Coasters said they couldn't join. And then I came on late in the evening yesterday, which a lot of the East Coasters then didn't join. So today we're checking a little bit midday to see if we get enough from both sides, East Coast and West Coast, to talk about what's going on out there. Denver still stuck, still waiting on the EIDL increase. All right, I'm going to go over some of the questions that came up in yesterday's chat. Please keep your comments coming in the chat today. I'll try to cover as many as I possibly can. I'm only going to chat here. I'm only going to be on live for about 30 minutes today. But we'll cover as much as we possibly can and see how we can help you guys. All right, yesterday, some of the big questions that came up, there was a lot of questions around deadlines. And that's for loan modifications, first-time loan applications, and grants. So the deadline is December 31st of 2021, and this program will most likely end, and we possibly may never see this ever again. Right now, it doesn't seem too plausible that we'll see this come up in another infrastructure package, because right now the infrastructure package are talking about removing funding from this program versus putting more funding towards it. So I had a couple questions that came out yesterday around the targeted advanced grants and the supplemental targeted advanced grants. How do I apply for it? What is the deadline to get myself into the queue? And a big question that you might have received one portion of it, say the balance of the $10,000, but you did not receive the additional $5,000, asking questions if you qualify, so on and so forth. So I want to start by, how do I apply? You have to apply through the loan process. So if you're finding this program for the first time in 2021, you are eligible now to receive these grants, $10,000 and the additional $5,000 if you qualify under the qualifying criteria. You have to be found inside of a low-income community. There is a map provided on the SBA.gov website that you could go out there, punch in your address, and see if you are found on that low-income map. If you are found on that low-income map, it's a matter of determining whether or not you had a 30% or a 50% reduction in gross receipts, and this is over an 8-week period of time, 2020 compared to that same 8-week period of time in 2019. You also had to be in business on February 15th of 2020 to be eligible for this overall grant and the EIDL program. So if you qualify in all that qualifications, low-income communities had the reduction in gross receipts. If you hit the 30%, you would be qualified for $10,000. If you hit the 50%, you'd be qualified for the full $15,000, and that's the balance thereof. So if you received any funding in EIDL for the advanced grants, it would be less that value that you received. All right, so many of you had mentioned yesterday that you had received the $10,000 and that you also believe that you qualify for the additional $5,000. So when you go through the application process and you enter into EIDL for the first time and you're requesting a loan, they will send you an application process based on the criteria of information that you submit to them at that time and determine if you should receive the application process to get yourself the $10,000 grant or the $15,000 grant. If you don't qualify based on, say, your address, they're not going to send you the application. Okay. If you do feel that you do qualify, you need to reach out to the SBA, and there is a reevaluation email that you have to go through to reach the targeted advanced grant reevaluation team, and they will trigger and send you an application process. I'll put that in the chats here or in the comments at the end of the video here, so stop back and grab that email. Okay. Now, that is completely different from recon. Reevaluation is completely different from the reconsideration process. Reevaluation is something that this channel actually fought heavily for. I worked with a Facebook group and fought to make sure that the SBA was allowing for some type of appeal process if you were wrongfully denied for your targeted advance grant or your supplemental targeted advance grant. That this process was developed so that if there was any errors in the application, you had a chance to get a second look at it. And yes, that process did finally hit to play, and it's called the reevaluation process, not to be confused with reconsideration. So if you know that you do qualify and you want to have a second look at that, maybe you didn't get the application by going out and applying for the first time, or possibly you received the $10,000, but you also believe that you are eligible for the additional $5,000, just go through the reevaluation process and that'll help you get that done, all right? Remember, you have to have all of this in before December 31st of 2021 when this program does end, and stay tuned to the channel because the new infrastructure bill is talking about robbing the funds away from this program for the targeted advanced grants and the supplemental targeted advanced grants. So there is some concerns there that if they pass the next infrastructure bill, that the grant portion of this could stop. All right. All right. So what's the current time for IRS sending an amended tax return? The amended tax return process, these questions came up yesterday. Some big questions around these, really, really important questions. So on to taxes for EIDL loans, and we'll kind of merge in there some things happening with the grants. All right, but if you've amended your taxes, this is unfortunately a manual process. Okay, so it does take a lot of time to get amended taxes through the process. Now, congressional support is set up to help assist with both the IRS process and the SBA process. So if you have not done so yet and found a congressman or woman who assists in these programs, get onto your state sites immediately and start finding somebody that can help you process this through. You will get put into a priority list. And again, they can help you work through the amended process first. That has to happen before the SBA can approve you for the loans. Okay. Now, the question came up around how much time do you have to go through amended processes, and can you amend it downstream? Can you go back and amend 2018 taxes or go back and amend anything outside of that? I mean, the amendment process, you have up to about 3 years. I believe the IRS allows 3 years, and I'm not a financial advisor or an accountant of any sort, but I do know that you can have 3 years through the statute of limitations to adjust things on your taxes, okay? All right. Some other questions that came up yesterday. Why does it take so much time? Obviously, it's a manual process. Why isn't there something that could be put in place of this? All right, and that was the stamped copies. So many of you had asked about the opportunities for stamped copies to be submitted for the loans and the loan modifications. Now, there was new legislation that came out in the end of 2020 that now requires the 4506T, the transcripts from the IRS, to be on file in order to receive the funding. Back when the CARES Act was first passed, that was not a requirement. You could basically just go off to the SBA's website, request that you needed the loan, request that you needed the advance, and the funds would arrive in your bank account rather quickly, within a few weeks' time. Well, since that new legislation has passed, the SBA had to actually go back retroactively and find all of those loans and request the 4506T. So Many of you before the loan modification process had already submitted your 4506Ts, but now in order to process forward for a new loan or a loan modification, first time request, it does require the 4506Ts, the transcripts to come over from the IRS. So stamped copies are no longer something that is accepted. And I know this is very confusing because some of you submitted stamped copies to get yourselves the $10,000 or the extra $5,000 for the target advance grants and the supplemental targeted advance grants. And that's because you did not have to validate your income in order to receive the grants. The grants were approved whether you were denied for the loan or whether you did not decide to even take the loan. So you didn't have to actually prove that your 4506Ts and your taxes were on file, just that you submitted them and they were accepting stamped copies and copies of your e-file receipts that were submitted stating that your taxes went in, and here is a draft copy of that. All right. Here in Texas, Corner Cruz, no help after privacy statements were sent in. Carlos is saying that he's having some difficulty getting some of the senators in his state to support his process after submitting the privacy statements. Did you? How much time has lapsed since you signed the release? Is a good question that I want to ask with you guys. All right. Okay. All right. So it's important that it's very important that you maintain the understanding that December 31st, 2021 is the deadline. Okay. So if you have not requested the full amount of money, the full amount of funding that you qualify for, and that could be the grants, that could be the loans, you could qualify for greater than $500,000 now. If you have not formally requested it and you do not do so before December 31st of 2021, you will not be eligible for anything greater than what you've requested. All right. So if you did not have the opportunity to request anything over the $500,000, reach out to the SBA immediately and find out why you did not receive an application or the blue button to process that as well. If you are in the first portion of the loan modification process and you've requested and you're already at your max, you should be fine. You're already within the queue. If you are seeking these loans for the first time, December 31st of 2021 is the deadline. So make sure you guys get yourself out there before that deadline ends. Because I point this out that the reconsideration process, it seems like the SBA is directing a lot of traffic over to the reconsideration process. And it could be because of things like taxes not found on file or something is missing from your application process. So the reconsideration process allows you to go back and submit new substantiation, new evidence that basically demonstrates that yes, you do in fact qualify for the EIDL loans, and you have 4 opportunities to get that done. Your very last opportunity is the final appeal. It's the 4th and final chance. And this does take several months to get this done. But remember, if you're not in there by December 31st of 2021, anything after that date, you won't even be considered for the reconsideration process. So make sure that you know exactly how much you're eligible for and that you have requested that highest eligible amount if that's what you're seeking, and that you get yourself in the queue before that time lapses. All right. Taxes still approved, waiting months. I mean, if you are in the approval process, okay, let's say that your portal says you've been approved and you're just waiting on that funding to occur, and it's been several months that you're still waiting on that funding to occur. A lot of times what's happening is that there is some piece of information that's missing from your application. So go through the checklist. It's good to what happens sometimes is that the loan officers, they push you through believing that it's all there, but then the inspector general goes through this process one last time, goes through a checklist, and if there's one piece missing that they need, you will see an email or possibly even a phone call from them. All right. So hazard insurance, 4506Ts, Form 2202, the board resolutions if you're an entity, the voided checks, and a good standing letter in some cases is requested from the inspector generals. All right. I go over these phone calls with so many people. You guys message me on Instagram. Instagram is ASKBILDER. You guys could find me on Instagram. Send me a message for EIDL. But what I find out is that when we go through the checklist, there's usually one piece that's missing, and that is what's preventing you from finally getting your funds sent over to you. Okay, if that time lapses for too long, it actually triggers just a denial, and so you'll get yourself denied and then sent over to the reconsideration process. So be sure that you're checking in on all your emails to make sure that there's not something missing there from the inspector general. Okay. All right, and remember, if you are seeking the congressional support, they can get you into that express line, get this process moving for you much faster. I know many of you might find yourselves hitting the funding process, as far back as August, and you're still not to the end, the finish line where you saw the funds arrive in your bank accounts. Getting on a congressional support list, signing the release allows them to speak on your behalf. They send over an email from a .gov, and then within a week's time, you'll find out somebody from the SBA is calling you, emailing you, saying that you're on the high priority list, and working through exactly what that one piece of information is that's missing, and then advancing you through the process. And if everything's there and everything's on file, and you're not stuck in your tax process, if you don't have amended returns or zeros or ones showing up on your taxes, you will move through this process rather quickly after that. All right. All right, guys. So it seems like mostly everybody today has shown up for EIDL support. Denver, Colorado. Welcome, welcome. Texas. Will there be a PPP3 program in the new package? As of right now, I'm going to say no. It's not plausible. And the only reason I say no is because it seems that many of the senators and congressmen and women right now are kind of shifting away from these programs. PPP3 would be one of them. Now, Restaurant Revitalization Fund, there's a high chance, high probability that will come back in one of the infrastructure bills. So I would lean more towards something that's more targeted and focus versus a PPP3. Now, I got to ask the question, Lee Mitchell, are you a sole proprietor? Do you have a business with employees? So what I'm finding out is that many individuals right now are leaving a lot of money on the table. So the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan brought a ton of funding for small businesses. So current turnaround for reconsideration request, 8 weeks is the first request, 20 weeks for the second request in reconsideration. Oh, I'm from New Jersey. Portal shows blue button, requested the increase. Great. It's perfect. So Sam just messaged us from New York City, indicated that he got the blue button for the 500K. Sam, when you submitted your documentation, did you see any errors show up? Some individuals are finding that if they submit their tax statements versus their 4506T, that there'll be an error that shows up. So make sure that you check the statuses on all the in processes so that they've been turned to the green in process. All right. So a lot of people are leaving money on the table. I just had a call earlier today. I talked to a lot of people, talked to a lot of small business owners, as I said on my Instagram, and some I'm just kind of compelled to. I talk with them quite frequently. One individual, she runs a business. She received $68,000 with her first and her second PPP combined. She also received $325,000 in her EIDL. But she missed one opportunity that came in the CARES Act and then was revised inside the American Rescue Plan. So she missed $110,000 in a credit. All right, so I linked her with a specialist that could actually get her the $110,000 that she needed. I mean, it's free money, right? It was included as a credit inside the American Rescue Plan. So a lot of individuals right now are leaving so much money on the table. So make sure that if you're not working with some type of specialist with your small business, check with your accountants, check with whoever is on your legal teams to make sure that you are getting all of the money that you truly need for your business. So if you are a small business with employees, don't leave any money on the table, okay? If you guys want to talk more about that offline, of course, you could find me on Instagram, ASKBILDER. Lee Mitchell, sole proprietor, independent contractor. Lee, what do you do for a living? Got PPP1, PPP2, and EIDL. Okay, so if you're a sole proprietor and you do not have any employees, you would not qualify for the credit. All right, guys. Seemed like mostly everybody showed up today for EIDL support. reps in Texas are helping. I'm sorry that Texas is not supporting you guys like you need. Lucia, where are you stuck in the process? So loan forgiveness, real talk, asked about loan forgiveness inside of EIDL. So I don't want to rule out loan forgiveness. I almost feel like in a sense, EIDL, because it came with a 2.75 and a 3.75 interest rate, that they would not just simply forgive all of that. But I mean, if you consider student loans for a moment, this is quite a large fund, similar to student loans, and getting student loan forgiveness is rather difficult, right? But because this is such a one-off scenario, there's a possibility that loan forgiveness still could happen. Nobody's discussing it right now inside of Congress. There's absolutely nobody talking about it right now, but some other channels point towards the direction that this could be used as a leveraging technique during the next upcoming elections, that, hey, we want to get all those EIDLs forgiven, all the loans forgiven. So who knows, right? Anything's possible, I guess you could say, all right? All right. Anybody out there from the short-term rental Airbnb community that you guys want to analyze any deals? All right. A lot of people from Texas today. So is Texas a state that's finding themselves having difficulty getting support? I mean, this is actually the first I'm hearing of it, but I mean, it's possible that it could just be a large backlog right now in the state of Texas. Thanks, Lee. Yvonne, all right. Yvonne, you're in Louisiana, huh? Are you close to the Gulf? Can you get the housing assistance and still work? So the answer there is possibly, okay, and I say possibly because housing assistance was granted to people that were on unemployment. It was one of the qualifiers. But there are other housing assistance programs found at the county levels and at the community level. So if you're out there seeking housing assistance, start in your neighborhood. Reach out to the individuals that are there in your direct neighborhoods and find out if there is a housing assistance program. They'll tell you exactly what the qualifications are. Some of them waive the fact that unemployment is not there. So it may just come down to your income. New Orleans, all right. All right, guys. All right, I'm running up on about 5 minutes here. I've got a meeting at 3 o'clock. So if there's any other big questions around EIDL, don't forget, leave your comments. As I said, if you're watching this video, after I've recorded it, leave some comments there. I'll check all the comments. I read through the chats, and then tomorrow I'll come back on and answer some questions. Also, leave some pointers as to what times you want to see me on here. I'm trying to test that out as well. South Central, New Area. Not sure if they're allowed here. Let's take a look at that real quick. All right. I'm going to analyze a quick deal here before I leave for the day. I just need to open up some of my software. So many of you asked how I analyze deals, and it's multiple levels on how I analyze deals. It all comes down to how much you're paying for the property. Are you buying the property? Are you renting the property, leasing it, and then subletting it and leasing it to Airbnb guests? So there's many different levels of analyzing these deals. But if you're out there buying the properties, I actually use multiple levels of software and some things that I've designed myself to analyze many of these deals. All right, so you are in New Ilberia. The goal is that you want to not be in such a saturated neighborhood. So you want to find that you have 300 or fewer is the number that I tend to strive for. Right now, there are 36 active rentals in New Ilberia. Let's see here. So 36 active rentals. There are some private room rentals in this area. It's about a 25% to 75%. So you could rent out private rooms in your home here. If you want to rent the entire residence, 75% of them are your competition. 3 bedrooms seems to be the majority here at 37%. And nightly rental here for the door is 174. 174, 66% occupied throughout the year. Looking at September months, actually, and maybe you could enlighten me on this. Why would September be higher than July? I don't know. Is there something? Is there some big major event that occurs down that way in September? But it seems that the high season here is in September, and the low season is in January. In January months, you can see about $952 on the monthly, and it peaks at $3,000 for the summer months, but it averages to around $2,000 for the month. So you can see that come up to about $40,000 in gross revenue for that particular region. Now, as I was saying, there's multiple levels to analyze these. So if you Sugarcane Festival, huh? I never heard of that. That sounds awesome. Sugarcane Festival. All right, I'm gonna check out Sugarcane Festival. Maybe I'll come visit you guys this September, next September. Okay. But so there's multiple levels, right? Now you have to once you see what you could earn monthly, all right, you have to make sense out of it. You're not going to want to go and rent a property here because in January you may not be able to cover your monthly rent. And if you're starting out for the first time and you're starting out in the early months when it's low, you're going to have a tough time just making rent, making your expenses on the property. But overall, if you can account for the fact that you'll pull $40,000, deduct approximately $15,000, it'll leave you with about 25 grand for the year. All right. Not necessarily a deal that I would go for. So you'd be left with a gross profit of around a net profit of around $25,000. Not essentially a deal I seek. I actually seek net profit now around $80,000. All right. So I use all these tools and software, and I go out and I search for prime locations near lakes, near beaches, near resorts, near ski resorts, so on and so forth, and I maximize the amount of money, the nightly door rate, when compared to the mortgage value. I want to pay as little as possible for the property, get as much as possible for the nightly door, have the amenities that I need to have there to be competitive against anybody else, be the top leader in that area, and remember to be under 300 or fewer active rentals. When you get into areas like Florida, there's 10,000 around Orlando. There's really big dense areas for Airbnbs, and you're competing against the door with everybody else. All right. All right. I hope that helped you for today. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Join me daily here for live streaming. I will come back with some standard videos posting on EIDL and work through that as well. Yes, 570 is the minimum credit score for the EIDL loans. All right, guys, don't forget, if you're tuning in for Airbnb, bring your deals. All right. I'd like to analyze them with you live here while we're in live streaming, so we can analyze them together and talk about it. And if you guys would like to learn how you get partnered with me and my current B&Bs, find me on Instagram and ask about my Zoom calls. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just leave me a message on Instagram. It's ASKBILDER. And guys, if you want to do it on your own, rush up to the description, and don't forget you could grab the crash course where you can get into the real estate game with as little as $50 bill, start cash flowing in 3 business days through Airbnb, earning an extra $5,000 to $10,000 each and every month. You don't have to own the real estate to do that, and you don't have to have a big credit score to do that. You don't have to be a realtor to do that, and you could be making $80,000 as I do while you're sleeping. It just shows up each and every morning in your bank accounts. I wish you guys all the best. I will catch you guys all in the next one. So bye for now. Thanks for tuning in.